Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stories you think you know, peel back some layers, and hopefully find some profound insights, maybe even a bit of humor you didn't expect. Today, we're diving into one of those really iconic narratives, Genesis 11:1 to 5, the Tower of Babel. And our mission really is to get beyond just the Sunday school version. We want to understand why this ancient text still hits home. We'll do this by digging into the original Hebrew, exploring some linguistic details, and looking at the theology. You might be surprised there's even a layer of satire in there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fantastic passage for this kind of close look. And its placement is really interesting, too. It comes right after Genesis 10, the Table of Nations, where humanity is starting to spread out, becoming diverse.
Right.
So you have this context of diversity just beginning, and then boom, this story about a very specific, intense kind of unity. It really sets the stage.
That context is key. Okay, let's jump in. Genesis 11, verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. Sounds simple enough in English, right? But the Hebrew, it literally means one lip. That's such a visceral image, isn't it? Like the whole world speaking with just one single mouth.
It really is. And it's not just the shippa, the one lip. The text also says jabarim dadim. Unified words. But, the Hebrew word debarim often means more than just words. It can mean things, matters, affairs.
Ah, okay. So it's deeper than just vocabulary.
Exactly. It implies a shared purpose, a single mindset, almost like a collective agenda. They weren't just talking the same language. They were thinking the same thoughts, aiming for the same goals. Really perfectly aligned.
Wow. And you have to pause and think about that. Everyone on earth, one lip, unified words, one single agenda. I mean, on one level, that sounds incredibly powerful, maybe even beautiful. Think what you could achieve.
It does sound potent, doesn't it? Like some kind of utopian ideal, collaboration perfected.
Yeah. But the story immediately suggests that maybe that kind of total unity, well, maybe it's not automatically a good thing. It could even be dangerous.
That's the tension right there.
So with all this unified power, what did they decide to do? Verse 3 tells us, come, let's make bricks and burn them thoroughly. The Hebrew verb nilbana, let us brick. It sounds very practical, very industrial almost. But notice that phrase, come, it gets repeated. It feels almost like a chant, like this collective human ambition is building momentum.
It does have that feel. And if you step back and look at the bigger picture in Genesis, think about how God creates humanity.
Okay.
It's dust plus the spirit equals life.
Right.
Dust plus spirit equals life.
Right.
Now look at their big project here. What's their formula? It's mud plus fire equals bricks.
Huh. Mud plus fire equals bricks. That's a stark contrast.
It really is. It highlights this fundamental difference between divine creation, which is about life, spirit, intrinsic meaning, and this purely human endeavor, built literally from baked earth. Their foundation is just fired mud.
Fired mud. And what's the point of this massive structure they're building with these bricks? Verse 4 is pretty explicit.
Yeah, it says they want to make a name for ourselves.
Shem. That's the Hebrew word, Shem, a name. It's not just about building a city or a tower. It's about reputation, legacy, building their own legacy.
And this is where it gets theologically really interesting, especially thinking about what comes next in Genesis.
With Abraham.
Exactly. Just a bit later, God promises Abraham, I will make your name great. God will make his Shem great. It's a gift, part of a covenant.
Okay, I see the contrast.
But the people at Babel, they're not waiting for God. They're trying to engineer their own greatness, forge their own Shem, their own fame, through their own monumental effort.
So it's self-made significance versus God-given significance.
Precisely. And that's a central question the text seems to be posing. Do we build our own towers to make our name, or is there another path to true meaning, one that involves a relationship with the divine?
That really shifts the perspective. It makes you wonder about our own motivations, doesn't it? Our own tower building. And right at this peak of human ambition, God enters the picture. Verse 5. This part is, well, it's subtly brilliant. Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower. Came down.
Exactly. They're building this thing supposedly reaching to the heavens, right? But God still has to descend, come down just to get a look at it.
Less slightly, yeah.
The irony there is just, it's almost comedic.
It really is. And that's where you see this thread of what you call divine satire. It's gentle, but it's definitely there. From God's infinite perspective, this massive, ambitious skyscraper they're so proud of. It's like, a tiny Lego project.
Right, or a little dollhouse.
Yeah. The idea that they thought they could actually reach God or even impress God just by stacking bricks higher and higher, The narrative subtly undercuts that by showing God having to lower his gaze, essentially, just to even notice it.
It highlights the huge gap, the almost comical gap, between how they see themselves and how things look from a divine viewpoint.
Absolutely. They're puffing out their chests, masters of their destiny, and the text shows God kind of bending down, maybe with a knowing smile, to look at their little project. That completely changes how you read the story. It's not just about, fire and brimstone judgment. There's this layer of divine humor, this cosmic wryness baked into the text itself.
It serves as this powerful reminder, doesn't it? No matter how grand we think our achievements are, there's always a bigger perspective that puts them in their true proportion.
Okay, so we've seen the power of this unified language, this Yopa-8. We've seen the ambition, the nilbona, the drive to make a Shem, and we've seen this subtle divine humor. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this story mean for us beyond explaining why we have different languages?
Well, connecting it back to the larger narrative, I think it's a profound warning, unity itself, that one mouth isn't inherently good.
Right. We kind of touched on that.
If that unity, that shared agenda, isn't grounded in something holy, something aligned with divine purpose, it can actually lead humanity down a really dangerous path.
So God confusing the languages and scattering them. It wasn't just punishment.
You could argue it was also a kind of grace, a necessary intervention for humanity's own good. It put the brakes on this unchecked, unified ambition that could have led to who knows what.
That's a different way to look at it. Preventing something worse.
It suggests that maybe diversity, even the challenges that come with it, is actually preferred by God over a monolithic unity driven by human pride. Maybe that kind of unity leads to spiritual smallness, not greatness. And it reinforces the idea that when humans get together purely out of pride, building their own high places, whether literal towers or figurative achievements, they don't actually get any higher spiritually. Yeah. Without God in the picture, even our tallest towers, our most impressive projects are ultimately, the text implies they're just too short in the ways that really count. True connection, true elevation comes from somewhere else entirely.
And it's really something how those original Hebrew words just make all these ideas pop. Shippathit, one lip. You feel that dangerous unified voice. Yubana, let us brick. You sense that relentless, purely human, maybe even godless ambition.
Right.
And Shem, name. He just lays bare that core human desire for self-made glory, contrasting it so sharply with the idea of a name God makes great.
They're not just dusty old words. They really paint this vivid, timeless picture of human nature, our striving, our pride, and maybe God's slightly amused, but ultimately profound commentary on it all.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis 11.125, we've gone from that intense unity of language and purpose to the ambitious brick-making and name-chasing, and landed on this surprising element of divine satire. It's clearly much more than just an origin story for languages. It's this incredibly potent narrative about the risks of human pride and ambition when they're cut off from divine purpose.
Exactly, and the subtle humor just makes the message even more powerful in a way.
It really does. It challenges us to think about what we consider great or progressive, to look beneath the surface of our own collective projects and ask what's really driving them, what's their true foundation.
A necessary question, always.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. In our world today, with all our global communication, our massive tech projects, our collective ambitions as societies or even as a species, how might our modern efforts to make a name for ourselves, our own versions of towers, compare to Babel's? What might it look like if we could really see them with that divine squint? What's their actual scale, their true purpose when viewed from, let's say, an eternal perspective? What might we learn about our own ambitions then? Something to think about. We'll leave you with that.